Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a new seminar on the long distance triathlon and aquabike. My name is Stefan Maurice. I'm a multi-sport operation manager at World Triathlon, and I'll do this session together with Duncan.
Hi, I'm Duncan. So again, pleasure to join you again for a second seminar.
Thanks for joining, Duncan. So as we say, we're going to look at all the specifics around all the specific rules around long distance triathlon and aquabike events. If we start with the distance, the things that we need to keep in mind is that the aquabike is organized normally in conjunction with another triathlon event. So if we have a standard event, we might have a standard aquabike. If we have a long distance, we might have the long distance aquabike together. The only difference is that obviously for those athletes that are racing the aquabike, the competition ends at the end of the bike segment. In terms of distance, they are defined in the rules. The only thing that we can say is that the technical delegate can approve a 5% difference because it's not always easy to end up on the right amount. So he has the opportunity to apply that possible difference. And obviously the course must be challenging enough, but also accessible enough to all the categories. Maybe just so again about the finish, the finish is materialized basically when the front wheel of the athlete is crossing, the leading edge of the front wheel is crossing the line. And that's where we record the time to make the ranks.
Okay, so a few little bits and pieces we need to be aware of with the uniforms. Okay, so sleeves are allowed, okay, in all age group events. However, the sleeve cannot go below the elbow. So the sleeve must finish just above the elbow. Now for youth, junior, under 23 and elites, they may also wear sleeves, but only during multi-sport events and distances which are longer than standard distance. Okay, so if the event is for standard or shorter distances, they may not wear sleeves. So again, front zippers in long middle distance aquabike can be worn. However, the zipper cannot be longer than 40 centimeters. And whilst it can be undone during the event, it cannot be undone any lower than the sternum. Okay, now this is the breastbone. So if you take a line from your throat all the way down the center of your rib cage and you get to the final bit of the bone before it becomes your stomach, this is the breastbone. This is the area that you have to stop with the zip. It cannot go below this area. Also, for the final 200 meters of the run, you need to ensure that that zip is fully done up. So when you're coming down the finish chute, last 200 meters, make sure it's zipped up. As regards to piece uniforms, they can be worn, okay. Now under normal events, they cannot be, you've got to have two areas overlapping, but for middle and long distance, you can expose the midriff. Okay, so they don't have to overlap. And we often get asked the question about rain jackets. So rain jackets can be used, but they must be the same design and color as the uniform, or they must be transparent so we can see the uniform through the rain jacket. So as regards outside assistance, so medical assistance, food, liquid, aid stations, and anything at personal needs stations or at coach stations, equipment, advice, etc. can be taken. Outside of this, it is prohibited. Now, when you're coming into transition, as we mentioned in one of the previous seminars, bike catchers can be used, and these will take your bike once you go past the dismount line in transition 2. Likewise as well, if there's bike mechanic support needed, and it's an approved vehicle, then again, support can be taken. but you cannot use just anybody on the side of the course. It needs to be an approved bike mechanic within the event. One of the other nice things that some people offer is wetsuit removal from the local organising committee. Again, this is allowed, okay, provided it's all done by the volunteers. But anything else, I'm afraid, is prohibited.
With regard to water safety rule, as you know, in a competition rule, we have a deadline for the athletes to complete the swim segment. So obviously that time varies depending on distance. If we're going for a long distance event, which is for us 3,000 meter swim, 120 bike, and 40K run, the age grouper will be allowed to stay 2 hours and 15 minutes in the water. This is super important to be monitored, and basically those people that are not meeting those times, they are simply not allowed to continue the race, and they will be marked as DNF. And obviously, like any other event, we know that the swim distance can be shortened or cancelled depending on the temperature of the water, and also the influence of the air temperature combined with the water temperature. So that doesn't change. There is these provisions where the distance can be reduced.
Yeah, just one thing as well worth mentioning on that one, Stefan, is the 2 hours and 15 minutes is from when the wave starts and not from the beginning of the event.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the correction, exactly. And also, there is like a slight adjustment on the rules since a couple of years ago, is that for the old category, starting 60 years old and older, they're allowed to wear the wetsuit at different temperatures than the younger age groupers. So for them, basically, for all distance, they have a wider range of temperature where they can wear their wetsuit, and the younger categories, basically, there is a difference with that.
Okay, everybody's favorite topic of conversation is drafting. So in middle and long distance, the draft zone is 12 meters, and that is from the front of the leading bike to the front of the athlete's bike behind. Okay, if an athlete decides to overtake, they are allowed 25 seconds where they must be making progress through the zone. Failure to meet the progress through the zone, will lead them to be penalised within the 25 seconds, or after the 25 seconds, I should say. Likewise as well, if an athlete continually tries to make attempts and comes back, take attempts and comes back, they will also be penalised for a drafting infringement. So for anybody unsure of the full-time penalties, obviously dependent on the infringement. So drafting infringements, which are signified by a blue card, are shown there with 5 minutes for long and middle distance, 2 minutes for a standard, and 1 for the sprint or shorter. And other infringements, which are highlighted by a yellow card, are 1 minute, 30 seconds for middle distance, 15 for standard, and we have the final 10 seconds for a sprint or for shorter events.
Maybe worth to remind, Duncan, that it is important that the technical officials stops at the next penalty box to leave all the vouchers and inform of the technical officials that are assigned to the penalty box if there is any penalties coming. You cannot bypass one penalty box. You need always to stop at that penalty box to inform the officials there.
And I think it's probably important to remember as well that they need to make sure they have 2 significant markings of the athlete. So whether it's the helmet, the bike make, what the name is on the suit or anything along those lines. So when that information is handed into the next penalty box, they have all the current details.
Yep, thank you.
So transition. Technical officials or LOC volunteers, may assist athletes, in placing their bikes, as we already said, with the bike catching service. However, what we need to ensure is that this service is available for all athletes and not just the front athletes. Athletes are allowed to replace their uniforms in the transition area. However, if it requires nudity, it's really important that they go to the changing areas supplied by the LOC and they change in the significant or the dedicated changing areas for male and female. Again, wetsuits need to be removed in the designated area. They can't just be removed anywhere on everywhere because it can block the progress of other athletes. And where we have a bag drop system, which is the system we discussed earlier on with the green bags, blue bags, red bags, okay, these need to be deposited properly in the areas provided by the LOC. And so basically anything you're going to be using out on the bike course needs to be within these bags. The only thing that can be on your bike, okay, is your pedals, which need to be attached, sorry, your shoes rather, which need to be attached to your pedals at all times. It also helps if the pedals are attached to the bike as well. And importantly, sunglasses, helmet, that needs to be in your bag, okay? One other thing that can actually be put on your bike is nutrition. So things like water bottles can be placed in the cages specifically on your bike. They don't necessarily have to be in your bag either. But yeah, sunglasses, helmets, we get asked all the time, needs to be make sure they're in your bag. So as regards personal needs and coaching areas, there are two stations. The first one is a dedicated coaches station, and this is for the elite athletes. And basically, it's a designated space. It's available on both the bike and the run segments, and it allows the coaches to supply the athletes their own food and beverages. Unless it is a designated coaching station, they cannot receive nutrition, food, drink from anyone else or anything else outside of that area. As regards, we've spoken already about personal need stations. These are stations for the bike and the run where you may have your own personal requirements, whether that be nutrition, clothing, sunscreen, entirely up to yourself. And again, it's really important that all these stations are managed by volunteers who hand these out to the athletes, rather than it being a free-for-all and the equipment gets scattered everywhere.
With regards to technical official assignments on long distance events, obviously this is quite different from shorter events or standard that we normally do at World Triathlon, but the time that we spend on the venue and on site on duty is very long. So what we are trying to do is we're doing a rolling system where we're not only doing one assignment like we are normally doing on shorter events, but we are doing like 1, 2, or 3 assignments throughout the day. If we want to do that kind of system, it's super important that first we give some breaks to the technical officials. So they need also to have their breaks to get some food, to get time to drink, and maybe time to rest a little bit. And it's also super important to be punctual because everything is staggered and we ask you to be at a certain time at a certain place in order to start. It's super important that the time that we ask the technical official to be present are respected. Otherwise, it's becoming a big mess. And as you can see, for example, we will have the swim people will start basically on the water. And then they will stay there quite a long time until the last person is going out of the water. And then they will pick up the run course and accompany probably the lead athletes for the run. So this is something that you need. That's a big difference compared to other events, is that you will do more than one assignment and you need to be prepared for a long day.
And it's possible you may end up working on the swim and the bike course and the run course.
The run course.
So please prepare for that, depending on the number of TOs that we have.
That's it. I think that concludes this webinars on the specific rules on the long distance triathlon aquabike. Obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and we'll clarify points whenever you're going to events. And And if nothing else, basically we're gonna see each other very soon on the blue carpet and in another video. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Stefan.
Bye bye. Thanks, Duncan. Bye, everybody.